Hey guys, welcome to, shall we say, the last TTRPG Talks for the season. Should we call it season? And it's been a good, fun run. We've been talking a lot of TTRPGs every Monday, and right now, before we set up Monday for something really big for September, we are going to have our last TTRPG talk, which is going to be about Dune RPG. And with us today is, of course, the lovely Jay. Hello, Jay. Oh, wait. Did I? Oh, shit. Sorry, I didn't turn on Discord. But yes. Okay, yes, here's
You turned on
Jay.
my mic?
No, you're on now. Sorry about
Okay,
that.
okay. I always happy to be here.
Yes, Jay has been very, kind of like a recurring guest. We've talked about Mage, the Ascension, had a debate on Awakening. You know, you're always down to talk about TTRPGs, and it's been a treat. It's nice to kind of formally wrap up this season. Of course, with a discussion that I am. There's a fun story behind this because I posted it a month early, because as I was really excited about this topic in particular, I posted it like earlier in the month. Like, yes, I'm excited to talk about Dune RPG. That's how excited I was. This was like one of the very, like one of my obsessions in college. I got the PDFs. A friend recommended it to me. They said it was like basically Lord of the Rings in terms of like the intensive lore and history. So when Jay was up to talk about it, I posted it like a month before the actual talk. So it was an interesting, it's an interesting backstory in how this talk's going to be, and it's nice that we're gonna when the end the TTRPG talk season here. Also, thank you to to Judge Judy Slayer for following. Appreciate that. Thank you guys for the peeps that are tuning in for this final episode. So, you guys know Jay. Jay's been playing quite a lot of TTRPGs for like more than 3 decades, from what I remember. And
Yeah.
I guess
an,
before,
an unhealthy amount of TTRPG.
yes, we'll say very enthusiastic about TTRPGs. The few things I wanted to ask though, since we're talking about this Dune RPG, how long have you been playing this system specifically? Like, have you ran it in a campaign setting? Was this a one shot? So just to gauge people and like
Um.
how long you play this game.
Okay. Well, for the Dune RPG itself, since it just released, I was lucky to be enrolled in the beta test program for this one, so I was able to run a one shot then. And then when they were kind enough to send me a review copy of the PDF, I was also able to run for two more one shot games. So this would be for I think three separate groups. So that's about as much experience I have for Dune itself. But for the core rule set that Dune runs on, um, that's something that's been powering multiple RPGs that I've run before.
Oh.
Um, John Carter of Mars, Star Trek Adventures, um, Conan Adventures in an Age Undreamed of, and yes, that's the full title of the Conan RPG.
That is
Um,
solo. Yeah. So
so yeah, I've had some experience with the 2D20 system behind this.
this one in particular, you're familiar with at least like how Modifius works. Hi Jay,
Right.
Gio says hi Jay. um,
Hello.
yes, one of your players in exalted,
Exhausted.
exhausted, no exalted. So
They're getting into their fourth session. I hope they're not exhausted. So
yes, so oh no, ba't ba ang KBPS mo? Ay, oh no, it fluctuated. Chill, chill.
happen. Oh, there we go.
Okay, sorry. There was like a drop. I didn't know what happened, but yes, you're well acquainted with the Modiphius. You've played different systems that use that in particular, and you got into the beta testing. So the more about Dune. Yes, we are talking about Dune today. One thing in particular that the thing that caught my eye beyond the art that was posted by Jay, like oh the beautiful art. If you guys actually check out Jay's feed, like he'd share his TTRPG journeys with like the books he's gotten, the like the artwork, everything. You see it on his feed. So beyond the art, I kind of wanted to know if the system was true to the lore. So we're gonna discuss that today.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
but before that, let's get into like this Modiphi system. You said you're very well acquainted with
right.
this game. You've played Conan. You've played different flavored storylines with this
Mhm.
system. What's the D20 system like? How is this
Okay.
different from the usual D20?
Okay. The 2D20 system is essentially the home system for a lot of Morpheus games. The difference for this one is that um, your dice rolling is it's simpler. Well, a little bit of a misnomer. It's similar to the World of Darkness in that you roll a pool of d20s, um, and in as opposed to the regular d20 that you see in D&D, what you do here is you actually roll under a value. So what you're doing here is you're rolling a number of 20-sided dice, and you're trying to roll as low as possible. And then each die that rolls successfully underneath your target number counts as a success. So it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of storyteller on the success counting angle. Um, but it never gets too complicated. You get like 5d20 at most in any roll. And there are a couple of other rules that will give you like double the number of successes, but that's par for the course for a lot of these rules medium type systems.
Okay. Has there
Mhm.
been what like in terms of the 2D20? Like this is like a segue question. Was it hard for you to pick
Mhm.
up, or was it easy because of the background you had for mage? Like for people that would try Modiphius, would it be like will be like a culture shock? Because like they're gonna have to consider getting the lower dice. There's this pool. Um, from your experience in getting to know the system versus what you
I
think a
think
new person would get in. Like, what do you
okay.
think?
The To be perfectly honest, the thing with 2d20 is that it's easier to learn by playing it rather than reading it. Because there's a lot of edge cases in it. But thankfully, the Dune iteration of the 2d20 system is actually the simplest that I've seen. So in a way, since Dune RPG itself is a much more narrative take on the 2D20 system, it's actually easier to get into.
Awesome, awesome. So, uh, so would so you're saying like Conan and I forgot the other one you mentioned. Are they
Yeah,
kind of like
Conan, Infinity, these are really heavier in terms of mechanics. Dune does away with a lot of the nitty gritty bean counting nature of a lot of RPGs and focuses really on like what drives your characters, what are their goals, what are their houses goals, and the politics of all that. So it's very interesting in terms of how it approaches these things, especially if you're familiar with the other systems and the other games that they've run with the same base mechanics.
oh, okay, all right. Can you give one example that let's say like the nitty gritty mechanic from like Infinity or Conan that like it's not
Okay.
in Dune.
Um, for Conan, you have a mechanic for weapon reach. So what happens is that when two opponents are engaged in combat in Conan, they're assumed to both have their guard up, and the issue here is that their weapon's reach plays a vital part on whether or not you can actually breach a person's guard, and whether or not the person's guard adds a bonus or a penalty. So, for example, a guy with a knife fighting a guy with a spear would normally suffer a penalty because the guy with a spear has reach. But, for example, our wise knife wielding fighter decides to throw dust in the eyes of his opponent, and the guy with the spear manages to drop his guard, and the knife wielding hero ducks into the reach of the spear. Then the reach difference that the spear would normally give suddenly reverses into a penalty. So in Conan, it actually rewards you for being able to pick the right weapon for the right opportunity. And I guess every Conan hero basically runs around with a knife just in case, because there's always an advantage to being able to deal with things in very close quarters. Um, but at the same time, it's also I guess you learn very early on not to mess with somebody on a horse, for example, with a lance or with a spear.
Okay.
So
So
yeah, that's an example of things you need to consider in Conan that thankfully aren't present.
yeah, because I don't think they have horses in Dune. But yes.
Yeah, but in terms of the weapons in Dune and everything, it's a much more stylized form of combat. I mean, the knife fighting and whatnot. Of course, you have the usual, the others. What do you call this? Uh, Kinetic weaponry, lasers, but yeah, it's
Awesome.
not as complicated. Mhm.
Nice, nice. So, one more thing, I guess, in terms of like just getting into the system discussions, um, in terms of like the character creation.
Mhm.
What's it like in Dune RPG as compared to the general Modifius RPGs? Is
Okay.
this unique to its own? Can it be
Yes.
compatible?
I think the best way to look at it is that in Dune, you actually build your house first as a team. In fact, in the Dune RPG, the entire play is assumed to be working for the same house at all times. You don't get the um, Legend of the Five Rings Skittles of different colored samurai in the same team. Um, you don't have that. The basic assumption is that if you are going to be in a play group with the rest of the people, everybody comes from the same house. And what that house is something that you guys will generate.
Ooh, okay. So it's like kind of like it's kind of like co-op in a sense that you guys are working towards like the same goal, the same house.
Yes. Yep. And you establish everything. Since it's the house creation is the first thing you do in the game. Everybody sits down, work together, and like what forms your house? Like what does your home world look like? What are the things that your house is known for? Um and then all these other considerations that you'll likely find. Oops, hold on. Laptop is running low on battery. Let me just quickly grab my
Sige, sige.
sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah, you can definitely pause that real quick. All right, guys, if you have any questions, since this is actually the last, at least the last for a while, a last TTRPG talk. If you guys have any questions about Dune RPG, feel free to ask in the chats below. Jay and I will be answering those questions if you guys have any. Right now, we're getting into the character creation of Dune RPG, and the actual full name is Dune Adventures in the Imperium. So yeah, I'll be giving some quick links while Jay is grabbing the charger. Here you go. You guys want to check out the game? We have it here. Let me post. Yeah, one thing I'm
There we
definitely
go.
there. Yay! Have we plugged the system core?
Yes. So sorry.
Yes. So
I swear I thought it was plugged in.
it's okay. It's better than it's just suddenly dies.
Yeah.
So, I guess going back to the house creation, you mentioned houses. This is actually very significant in the books because, like, you kind of
Yes.
start with there's like this house. Like you mentioned, there's a lot of politics involved. Does that mean that people have access to the canon houses, or they kind of just create their own mini house, in a
Well,
sense?
the options for the game group actually decides what kind of house they play. You have four options. They have you can start as a nascent house, which is literally just a minor house that was just formed. You can play a minor house, you can play a major house, and you can play one of the great houses. If you
Yes.
play one of the great houses, you can build one your own, or if you want, both House Atreides and uh, Harkonnen are also what do you call this, statted out in the book.
That's cool. At least they offer those options for the players to choose. Like, um, I'm guessing has in your time running or playing this, has is there like a distinction if they go for the great houses, if they go for the minor houses? Is there some slight differences in terms of power, influence? Of course, I think it's expected that the great houses will
Yeah,
have
yeah.
more, but
Oh yes.
how does it
There
affect
are actually
gameplay?
fairly significant difference. The nascent houses are assumed to at least have full of like a city or a continent. Uh, the minor houses are all technically serving a major house, which basically controls a planet, and greater houses basically control multiple planets. Um, in addition to that, the stakes are higher for greater clans because you have more assets to pull on. On the flip side, if you play characters from a greater house or a great house, um, then you're likely to be operative either middle rung or lower in the hierarchy. But if you play, say, a nascent house, it could be just like, oh, it's a newly formed noble house, 20 people. So you have you have a bunch of guys who are like literally playing. I am the spy master of my house because there's only 15 of us, for example.
Yeah. I guess it's like depending on the play that the players might want. If they just wanna, I guess, would you recommend them starting with a great house, or do you want them to start in minor houses to get the feel of the game? Like, when they're starting out, when they're new people, do you feel like it's better they start in a minor house,
I
or
guess if you depends if you're new to the setting. Because there are some people who are like, oh, I've read all six books and all the other extra books. I've watched all the movies and stuff. Uh, and those guys are like, okay, just throw me anywhere. They're the ones who seem, most comfortable with the great houses because they're so used to seeing how things are presented in the lens of the House Atreides or, uh, in any of the other greater houses. But for a lower stakes game, a nascent or minor house is perfectly fine. In fact, it's actually more interesting because the stakes are more personal. Example, a story about an heir, or let's see, a story about one of the players trying to become the chosen heir to lead the house. Um, is much more personal and much more, I guess, impactful if you're in a nascent house where you have to like beat off your like uh, the competition in terms of like if I have to fight my three other brothers to get the the position of heir, for example.
all right, personal stakes for the minor houses, and I think it's more like a macro sense when it's like the greater house. Like you could lose a continent, you could lose like your investor, you could lose like your allyship. Oh, okay, that's cool. I like that there's a
Mhm.
heavy. Would you say like the house creation, or at least the play on houses, kind of like clans in Legend of Five Rings? Is that how it feels like? or is it like really different?
They're similar. I actually like the house creation rules of Dune, and it did occur to me when I was writing my review for this one that honestly I could file the serial numbers off, and it could work as a passable substitute for L5R in terms of creating houses and factions,
Nice.
which I really like because the minor house or the minor clan, for example, take is very clean. The way the Dune does it is like you define what your house is good at, what are their like the dominions, what are their specializations, what are you guys known for. You define the reputation of your house, what their homeland is like, what the personality is of people who come from that planet. Are there stereotypes of the people in that, and are these stereotypes true or not? All of these things are taken into account and discussed and agreed upon by the group, which means that at the end of it, all the players have a personal stake in their creation, and there's this built-in loyalty to to the house that you made, basically.
Nice. Awesome. So that's that's cool for character creation. And I guess they get to pick beyond just the noble houses. They they kind of get to pick a race as well, which we'll get to in a bit. I kind of now want to delve into like the world building, like the RPG versus the book.
Hmm.
So,
Okay.
Dune RPG, like the actual title, Dune Adventures in the Imperium, which is a mouthful. So in this RPG, uh, since you've mentioned like there's the house creation, there's a loyalty to the house, and you know being able to have a stake on a city, a stake on a continent. Um, so far, it's just Arrakis or Dune.
Hmm.
The first focus in the book, at least. Does it allow other planetary explorations, or is it like more shoehorned on like let's stick to Arrakis, or does it explore the other worlds?
Surprisingly, out of the three games that I've run, outside of the beta test, whose uh, quick start adventure assumes that you're part of House Atreides' entourage working in Arrakis. For the other two groups that joined, they decided that their home planets were very, very far away from Arrakis. So the adventures that they had were all set outside of Arrakis, and even without the Arrakis as a focal point, it still felt like Dune. So in a way, that's actually a good thing because while there was a lot of effort put into outlining Dune in the books, there's really not much information about the rest of the Imperium in the novels.
Yes. Okay. That's yeah. There's a limitation in some aspects beyond like the later books. They kind of have a dip on some of the areas, and it's just like in passing. It's not like
Hmm.
usually the focus is not actually on the politics between the houses. But it's good to know that you can run it basically outside of Arrakis. You can run it in a different planet, or like just in the home planet. So that's
Hmm.
cool. In terms of, you know, with the movie coming out, like either September 3 or somewhere in September, um, there's this key thing that's very known in Dune, which is called spice. So,
Yes.
can you explain what spice is and how it's used in Dune RPG?
In the Dune, spice is pretty much the key resource in the Imperium. It is the geriatric spice. It extends lifespans. It enables people to perform incredible mental and psychic feats. It's means by which the Spacing Guild is able to um, basically navigate across the stars by seeing into possible futures to plot a sail through space. But in play, it actually doesn't have rules. So
What?
yes, it's important. Yes, it's a no, but there's no specific rule set of like, oh, this is what happens to your stats when you take spice.
Oh, okay. So like, so it's just generally there, but it's not really like implemented as a currency or like a booster of sorts.
Well, if you given that you are a what do you call this, a member of a noble house as your starting what do you call this, um your starting characters, you're assumed to have like sufficient funds to basically buy most things. So it's really a little bit on the softer end of things, that okay, what assets can you buy given your stature and position in terms of your, yes,
Oh,
what
okay.
kind of house that you belong to.
Hmm. Okay, that's
So there's
actually
no, again, there's not a lot of bean counting. This is the whole, okay, so I'm a noble, and can I feasibly like order a an ornithopter? Do you have the time?
okay.
I
That's
can yeah. It's
so.
kind of like L5R in that sense.
Okay, so it's like kind of like on the vague side, because like in the books, like you mentioned, it's like the source of the psychic abilities. It's the one that prolongs life. So it's interesting that it's kind of like just it's not really an actual item or an actual weapon to fuel your things. It's just like flavor, more or less, kind of like a flavor
Yes.
item. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
because you're technically a member of a noble house, so it's like, okay, I'm gonna do my menta thing. So my character reaches into his pocket, like unstoppers, like a bit of spice, takes it, and then goes and does his brain thing, and that's it. I mean, it's assumed that that's part and parcel of how it works.
Okay, so there's no actual. That's interesting. At least it's like more of a story narrative thing. And
Yeah. So again, it actually rewards the GM if the GM is actually well versed in the Dune setting, because you can really go full on in terms of color, how people act, how people, uh, how they interact with spice on a daily basis,
yeah, like
and how people respond to certain like behaviors, for example.
yeah, it'll be interesting because like one of the things I like about at least with Dune, they kind of explore the addiction of spice.
Hmm.
And then people were seeking for like some sort of immortality. I guess one example for a mechanic, a TTRPG mechanic, is the conditions in
Right.
World of Darkness. They have this thing called addicted, dependent on certain things. I think it's interesting if like that particular lore in Dune would be used for that particular purpose. But it's good that they're not strict about it. It's like this exists, do whatever you want with it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole. Okay, so what you might have is as an asset is in terms of your character creation, you don't really have an inventory, but you do have assets.
Okay.
So some of these things might be like, oh, it's a unique weapon that was passed on by like swordmaster until it came to me. Or it could be something like, oh, I have blackmail on this dude. Um, to oh, I have mining rights for this plot. So this is how much spice I can bring to bear all of a sudden, because I have, mining rights, or I have smuggler contacts, or so on and so forth.
Awesome, awesome. So yeah, that's cool. At least it's using different mechanics to complement that particular thing. It's not really a
Hmm?
fixed thing. So
Yeah.
so speaking of you know space, planetary exploration, being able to go to Arrakis and whatnot. Is there any particular mechanic for the space travel? Because in the books, it really captures the horror and fragility of
Hmm.
space travel. I think there's a recent series, Expanse, that they started to go into the realistic side of traveling in space, like,
Right.
going too fast, inertia, how your body would just suddenly explode, even if when the spaceships goes full stop after going. like light year speeds, those kinds of things. Is that something that can be explored in this RPG? Like the space travel mechanics. Is there anything in this system?
As of the core book, not really. Because the focus for this one is really okay. It's less about, oh, it's the daily life of the space person. It's really more of like, no, you guys are noble houses, so you need to be in this planet. Okay, you book it with the spacing guild. A few weeks later, you're getting off the Highliner.
Uh,
So
okay,
it,
it's not.
there's less about the whole space travel bit for now, but I don't know if there's gonna be anything in the future for that.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. I mean, at least it's just like they focus on the aspect of politics or like the house relations and
Mhm.
stuff. So I think
It might
it.
have something to do with the fact that the core book is more closely tied to like the first book. In that,
Yeah.
you have, yeah, their primary experience with space is like, okay, we hop on this giant bus and don't look out the window. And that's it.
Yeah, it's just like don't look. We're fine. We're fine. Though
Yep. Don't look. Please don't jeopardize our what do you call this, travel rights by snooping around when you're not supposed to, Paul.
yeah, Paul. But it's good they got Timothy the actor. Really
Hmm.
perfect face. But anyways, deviating from that. Um, yeah, at least it's good that it's a potential exploration because like usually from the sci-fi, this is like new to me because a lot of sci-fi systems really shoehorn in about like, oh, the space travel, there's like a certain mechanic there, like Starfinder or Aliens. They do have a specific Alien RPG. They also have
Right.
like this mechanic to travel into different outer rims and stuff. So there's like, so it's interesting that they don't have it here. It's like
Yeah. It's it's
it's a
it's
cutscene.
assumed that there is space travel, but the focus isn't really about piloting. That's not what you guys do. So even a house that, for example, might have a dominion relating to travel, because say they're very related to the spacing guild, would basically just be that. The other houses would come to you like, you're a super high luxury travel agency, so that they can book special accommodations or whatnot. Or we can get into all sorts of trouble of, oh, I need to smuggle this army to this other planet. Can you find a way to do that? Oh, sure. Then what are you willing to pay for it? So that's the nature of things in Dune.
All right, awesome. Also, thank you, CCXCZ, for following. We're just talking about Doom. And right now we're jumping into the conversation. Speaking of assets, you've been actually mentioning quite a lot about assets. I
Hmm.
guess this is me going on a deep dive on, because the books have, at least the novels, cover a lot of unique flora and fauna. um, like is this the ecosystems, the different animals that are in it's like the ecosystem in Iraq is unique, complex. um, does this, like, this is gonna be like a tweak in the question, does this play into the assets? Is this something they use in the assets, and is there an
Can be.
environmental play?
It can be. Technically, since assets can be quote unquote anything. If you're looking at it from a more narrative point of view, say knowledge of the maker is an asset. I guess that
Nice.
ties in more of like how well related you are to the Fremen. Um, but for example, let's take our favorite planetologist, and he or she, in this case, might have an asset about, you know master knowledge of Dune's ecology or flora and fauna, and that's something that he can leverage as an asset for certain actions in either intrigue or other types of conflicts. But if you're looking at a bestiary, for example,
Yeah.
uh, you would probably find it in the next supplement that's coming out, Sand and Dust. because that's the one that details Arrakis, as well as like the main cities and primary features of Arrakis itself.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. CC says that I've only heard the Dune RPG mentioned as named. I assume it's centered around political intrigue and adversarial play based on the theme. Yeah, so far, from what's been discussed, there's, like the house creation. There's a lot of politics in terms of, um,
Definitely.
like the loyalties and assets. It's more of like a relational thing. And if you play a minor house, there's like a more personal stake when it comes to taking over the universe or something like that. Something
Mm-hmm.
that effect.
Yep.
So, very
But in
interesting.
terms of adversarial, I think it's the good thing about it is what they did with the game is they really didn't make it so that players would be up against other players. I like the fact same house because it really reinforces the whole us versus them angle that Dune is very very strong with. It's the whole it's the Atreides we're thick as thick as thieves and such. um and it's the whole family is more important than anything. That lends itself to interesting stories which might have shades of, let's say, the mafia if you're that kind of uh noble house, or any other setup. But uh it, ultimately it's nice because you can be as ruthless and cutthroat as you want, because ultimately you know that the rest of the players have your back, and that's what I like about.
Yeah, it's like we're all in agreement that we are going to do this. So,
Yes. Sometimes not even. Sometimes it's the whole, I'm not gonna tell everybody else in my team, but they know that I have them and their best interests in heart while
yeah,
I go off and do this nasty stuff that I don't tell them.
yeah. I guess so. Uh, That's interesting. So I guess in terms of they don't have much exploration on the in the flora fauna. They don't explore like the typical, like in Dungeons and Dragons. There's like environmental hazards. Do they have that in the system, or it's just more focused on like the interactions between you and like certain groups?
Well, there are a little bit of that. I mean, there are rules for um how to deal with environmental hazards.
Oh,
But the focus for a lot of the book really falls in more of uh, man versus man more than man versus, like, Dune uh, conflicts. So we will likely see more of that introduced as the game line covers the rest of the books. Because from what I'm seeing here is that what they're trying to do first is, okay, the core book will cover everything that, say, the movie goers and the guys which have read the first book might want,
mhm.
and then they'll start expanding. The next book right now is talking about Arrakis proper, which would be nice. Get to the second book, you'd be more interested in, okay, what does the city look like under the
Yes.
rule of yeah. I don't want to go into too many spoilers. Um, but eventually, I mean, there's still a lot of supplements planned, and from what I know, they really are looking at being able to explore the other eras outside of just Paul. So I'm pretty sure we'll be seeing how they reintegrate different themes. I'm basing this on how they did Conan, because how they released the Conan books was basically you have your classic Conan, um, barbarian base rules and everything, and then what they did was that every supplement reframes Conan in the context of his further adventures, because Conan was written as a series of short stories. Each supplement covers a portion of Conan's quote unquote career. So there's
Yeah.
Conan the Wanderer, Conan the Scout, Conan the Pirate, Conan the Thief, Conan stuff like that. So and each one covers a type of story that fits Conan's milieu. So in Dune, it's likely going to be something like this. As we push forward with the rest of the books, I'm pretty sure they'll also introduce new ways of running the game.
Awesome. Awesome. That's cool. At least they I'm glad that they kind of started on like the the family, at least the clan, air quote, house or clan aspect of the game. So that's cool. If you guys want to check out more about the flora, the fauna, the monsters, you guys can definitely check out the link that I posted. Do Sand and Dust. So that's coming out December, I believe. So definitely you guys can check out for that. I guess of before we close off like the general monsters, since it's focused on man versus man, what do you exactly fight here? Is there like a conventional combat schematic with this Dune RPG, or is it just more of like uh just more kind of like you're trying to avoid fights as much as possible in this system?
Okay. Yeah, okay. So in terms of conflicts in Dune, they basically break down conflict into multiple types. It's not just physical combat, but that's also part of it. So they break it up into what they call scopes. So you have dueling, which is your one-on-one. Um, this is the type of conflict that is the your knife duel with shields and the hand sinister and all these other things. Uh, you have skirmishes, which are your standard D&D. Oh, there's five guys in a room fighting another five guys, and this is what the hallway looks like. That's your standard skirmish. Warfare is physical combat on a strategic level. This is the whole, okay, I deploy this force of tanks on this side, and then, oh, I have like Fremen buddies on this other side. And that's much more on a planetary scale. So this is usually reserved for guys either on great houses or major houses, and it involves a shifting, I guess, what I tend to call the lens of gameplay. There are two modes essentially in Dune
Mm-hmm.
where uh, y- the game fluidly switches back and forth. One is called architect style play, and the other is agent scale play. Agent play is basically the scale where we're all used to in D&D. It's just me doing stuff.
Yeah.
Architect scale is closer to higher level L5R, where it's, oh, I wave a fan, I whisper a few words, and then the GM interprets that as this troop starts attacking this province later on in that week. So both of those are valid. And in a game of Dune, you'll find yourself moving from one to the other fluidly. Because certain scenes require agent level play. So, oh, I need to sneak into this palace or something. That's definitely agent level play. Or for example, oh, I wish to perform. We really need this other asset belonging to the other house bombed to hell. So here, I'm going to use my spice mining contract asset to get the Spacing Guild to quietly deposit a few saboteurs to destroy their warehouses, for example, on this faraway planet. So it's something that you'll find yourself switching back and forth on, and there's a lot of leeway for it. Um, the other two forms of conflict are espionage and intrigue. So, espionage is stealth and deception. It's kind of sort of equivalent to hacking, getting into a place to get the sensitive information, an important person, either destroy orders or do something else with it. And then intrigue is your social conflict, where you leverage your influence and assets to get something done. Often without violence, but threats are always on the table.
Yeah, that's interesting. At least like there's, I guess it has the mix of like the hacking style, or at least the espionage style of like Shadowrun or Cyberpunk, and then like
Mhm.
the politics of Five Rings. So it's like it
Right.
focuses more on like the bigger picture as compared to your simple actions going towards this combat. It's more like a bigger thing. Like your what you
Right.
do will
Right.
have bigger consequences because it's attached to
Mhm.
your house, kind of thing.
Yes. Yep.
That's that's nice. Okay, that's also in terms of like the things you fight in the RPG, which is kind of like in the books. So, um, in terms of houses, just like one question here.
Hmm.
Um, so everyone has like dragon marked houses. They gain benefits. I think you mentioned already here, like the greater houses has like bigger stakes. If it's a minor house, there's
Right.
like a more personal stake. But I guess since like the titular great houses like Atreides, Harkonnen, is there like a specific benefit for being there in that house? Like, oh, you have more espionage. Oh, you have more. Is there like a specific benefit for being part of of a great house that's used in the lore? Because like in the books, they do have their specific things going. Is that implemented in the RPG? Like if you pick one of the great houses.
Yes. Actually, in terms of how the house, even the minor houses, when you build your minor or any of your houses, basically, you define your dominions. So you get to pick. This is from a list the in the book, and sorry, domains. My bad, not dominions, domains.
That's okay.
So these basically define your area of expertise. So it could be anything from artistic to farming, industrial, military, political, science, and then each further broken down um, subsections such as machinery, produce, expertise, workers, and understanding. Uh, okay, so how this basically works is, for example, in one of the one shots that I wrote, the team decided just for the hell of it to create a house, a minor house called House Hallyu. So they essentially a K-pop house. So their primary domain was artistic, and their subdomain for artistic, I believe, was workers. I think, yeah. So actors, stage crew, musicians. So basically, they churn out K-pop acts like crazy. Um, and their secondary is espionage. So not only do they make good K-pop acts, their K-pop acts are also occasionally spies. Um,
Okay.
and because of that, they actually all the characters from that house share the artistic and espionage traits as part of their characters. So whenever they're performing an action that falls under either of those categories, they get a bonus in any role relating to that, as long as they can apply the trait.
Oh,
So that's basically how it works. So if you were to be from one of the great houses, for example, then you'll have whatever traits are related to them.
okay. Like,
So
how did they like?
yeah.
My one thing is, I wonder how Harkonnen works because they're kind of like in the slave trade. Spoiler warning, spoiler. But spoiler warning for people who are not tired of Dune. But like, how do they hand? Like, is that a specific thing, or is that like it's just under human resources? Like, I don't know what specific domain Harkonnen would treat their uh like their specialties or their expertise.
Yeah, I guess for example, like House Harkonnen, um surprisingly, their house traits are brutal and cunning. So these are things that they are known for, and all members of House Harkonnen exhibit. Their primary domain is surprisingly farming, produce, spice. which makes sense. Secondary
Oh,
domains are industrial, production of refined alloys, and
okay.
industrial mass-produced goods.
Uh,
So
okay, they
they're
downplayed the
yeah
okay. All right. Guys,
yeah.
you
So
didn't hear anything
it's
from me.
hidden under mass-produced goods, but essentially, their ruthless and cunning nature lends well to how their quote-unquote operating practices are with regards to like how they meet the quotas of this manufacturing requirement.
Yes, yes. Okay, yeah, that's cool. Because like when I feel like if I'd play this, I'd be like, okay, I'll be suspicious of these certain things, and I know that this specific house, like, if I ever play it, I feel like I'd be kind of like meta, like, because I would know certain things, but it's interesting that they kind of downplay certain aspects of it. Um,
Hmm.
so that's cool. That's cool. Um, I guess in the next part, so we've been talking a lot about the politics, the house, man versus man, conflicts, which one of the things that Dune, the novels are also known for, is their how they tackle in a subtle manner, or like at least in such a way that isn't too like in your face. The
Yeah, too
philosophy, and
preachy.
yeah, it doesn't sound preachy. Like it makes sense in the story narrative. So
Mm.
like in terms of the philosophy and religion side of things, how does the RPG like handle this aspects of the book? Is there like a mechanic for the like the religious side of things? Like because like you do play psychics in a specific order, religious order.
Right.
Does philosophy and religion have a play on the actual game, or is this more like a flavor thing?
With regards to this, you do have discussion on faith and religion in this setting. But with regards to how you play it out, it's more of, I guess, a function of how certain factions perform better in terms of, say, intrigue actions versus others. Because certain factions grant you access to talents, which are, I guess, the equivalent of D&D feats, special abilities, um, that basically represent your special training under any of these special factions. So the Mentats have them, the Bene Gesserit have their own set, um, and several other factions, the Suk Doctors, as well as, I believe, the Spacing also have uh, special traits baked into it. But if you're asking whether or not the game like pushes a certain kind of philosophy,
No.
that's actually largely left to the GM in terms of uh, what to highlight. So, like in terms of, if you really want to highlight, like for example, the nobility of the Fremen, then that's up to, I guess, up to you in terms of how you pull that off with your player characters.
Nice. All right, thanks for lurking, Zen. I really appreciate. I guess it's just more of me because like, one of the few systems that we're able to tackle, let's say, philosophical things. Let's say I'm going back to Legend of Five Rings again. The way
Hmm.
they have a mechanic called the void, like understanding and all that
Right.
sorts, and like it can get very existential when you use that particular element. Um, and
Yeah.
and during the 20 questions in Legend of Five Rings, one of the philosophies they tackle is like, how do you want to die? Like
Right.
the like it's really intense, like on that level. Like you're thinking about
Hmm.
your character's death, you're thinking about what drives them. So I'm at like, it's more of me curious if like when you make these house creations where you're making characters, does it have like the same nuances of like there's something that drives you. There's something like you know that there's an end.
Okay.
Those kinds of things.
If that's what you're looking for, then yes, actually, because you don't have attributes, stats in terms of Dune characters. Characters in Dune are defined by two major things: skills, which are things that you know and can do, and the other half lives, which are basically your motivations. So for your character creation, instead of defining, oh, I have 18 strength or 18 dex or 8 intelligence. Instead, you start defining and ranking the 5 drives in the game based off like which one is the most important thing to you and which one is the one that you care the least about. And these 5 drives are, I guess in order, uh, duty, faith, justice, power, and truth.
Oh,
So every character basically starts ranking those. In a way, if you were to translate this to L5R, it's like take away all of the stats and you replace it with the tenets of Bushido.
yeah.
Which faction parts of Bushido is the one you care the most about and which one doesn't matter to you, and you rank, and that's your stats. Because it doesn't matter, nobody cares how much Paul can deadlift in Dune. But what they do care about is how much does Stilgar like believe in uh the what do you call this? The prophecies of the Fremen. Like
Yeah.
how much does he believe in Paul as a messianic? Those are the things that matter to the characters in Dune.
Yeah.
And they do that really well in the game because it's less about, oh, I'm a smart guy, and no, I'm really good at this particular role because I'm utterly determined to beat this guy because I like power, for example, or I'm driven to it because this is a matter of justice.
Yeah. CC mentioned that's an interesting design choice. Yes. I think it really reflects on the book as well, like the general drives of the
Hmm.
characters. So it is nice that they were able to pull it off. Like I can see a lot of systems that successfully pull it off. Legend of Five Rings is one of them, and I wish more TTRPGs had like thought of that kind of like that narrative like mechanic on focusing on motivations, and that is what gives you that effect. So it's
Hmm.
nice that they do have these things called drives to help
Yes.
with that's like
And
that's how they
yeah,
tackle the philosophies here in the
yes.
world.
Actually, the fun thing about it is that in order for you to use, I guess, one of the powerful action point type mechanics in the game, you have to appeal to your character's drives. So what once you're done ranking the drives, your top three, the ones that you ranked three highest, all need to have accompanying drive statement. So there are examples on the book. For example, for say justice, one is like um, justice is what you can get away with, or justice is only for the wealthy. Um, or you have something like um, what do you call this? The power to destroy a thing is the absolute control over it. Um, but yeah, so these statements are important because the only way for you to trigger the use of this action point, which grants you like really high bonuses or really good rerolls, is if you're performing an action that's in with these statements, it's in line with your personal philosophies. So that's what determines whether or not you can actually go above and beyond what people can do, for example.
Nice. Yeah, because like it's the motivator that kind of gets you to do these impossible things, even if it feels impossible. Like if you feel like it is your duty to protect this certain person from getting eaten by a sandworm, you're gonna do it.
Hmm.
Something to that
Yes,
level.
exactly. that's the trick to it, I guess, in terms of this one is that the catch is doesn't if you're trying to perform an action that isn't in line with that, then you're out of luck. You're not allowed to spend that asset.
Yes.
And at the same time, if you try and perform an action that goes against your philosophy, then the GM will pay you like, here's something for you if you choose to fail. You can choose to automatically fail an action if it goes against your own drive statements, for example,
So
because it's not who you are.
yeah. I guess in terms of like successes and failures, like that is very common in like an RPG game. There's always a success, fail. Do you think Dune RPG is more of a fail forward? Like they celebrate failures, there is an actual mechanic when you fail? Or it's like when you fail, it's like you will feel the brunt of the failure, and a lot of the players do not want to fail, like, or get those things. Like, how do they handle failure,
Okay.
in terms of
S-
mechanics?
Um, in terms of the skill tests, in terms of this, when you and hold on, let me just see if I can pull up the exact mechanics for that one because I don't want to make a mistake on this one.
Yeah, it's okay.
Um, but I do believe that there is a way for you to, um, even if you roll a failure, what happens is basically you succeed with complications. So the
Mm,
GM, it's essentially failing forward.
okay.
It can be anywhere from the Star Wars. Oh, you lose your handhold and you fall, and suddenly you're in a dumpster. Good luck, because the walls are coming in to crush you. Um, diba? It changes the situation, but it's not an outright you're dead.
Yeah,
Uh,
it
it's
makes things
something that
interesting.
the rules also support, so it's there.
Awesome. Like, it systems like the one thing that are like TTRPGs often punish the players is like having low rolls. Like they don't get to do this epic thing. So it's nice
Hmm.
that there are successes with complications instead, or the fail forwards. I like those kinds of mechanics. CC also mentioned that I really like when systems let go of the simulationist approach and instead use the mechanics to support building the narrative. Yes, I totally
Yeah,
agree.
that's really it's more fitting here, I guess, because it's that kind of game. It's that kind of uh, I guess stories that you'd like to see that fit Dune. I mean, clearly simulationist play is something that I'm fairly familiar with, having run Hero. But uh,
Sweats.
you know, again, different strokes, different ways of doing things, and honestly, being able to run and play different styles is can only be good for you. So I'm happy about how they did it here. Here we go. They call it success at cost. So yeah,
Success at a cost. That's cool.
yep,
Like, there's gonna be a trade-off for your assets when you fail, or
yeah. There's a trade-off or something, right? So if you even if you fail, it produces a successful outcome, but stuff happens. So
that's cool.
and the
So
GM is actively encouraged to make it interesting stuff. It's not just like stuff as in stuff. You succeed and then the GM gets to kick you where it hurts.
yeah, that's something you don't want to do. In terms of like you don't want to punch down when they.
Oh yeah,
That's gonna be really tricky. Unless you're like going for like a grim dark, then I guess that's possible.
yeah.
But
Well, if
uh,
the again, if the players are into that, because there are some gaming groups that are very very big into the okay, the dice says I fail, so hit me with your best shot. So it's
interesting. So in terms of religion, so they have like these like cults,
hmm
religious orders, kind of like the Black Pope that pulls the strings behind the scenes. I'm curious how the
yes.
magic system works, because there is like some systems that are like on hard magic systems. This is the spell, this is the reach, this is the effect like in 5e. Like this is the first level spells, this is the second level spells, this is the third level spells. And also like hard systems like in Awakening where there is the spell factors. So what's the magic
Right.
system like in Dune RPG? With the
Um. uh,
witches and all.
yeah. Basically, um, what do you call this? For Dune, the powers are all classified under talents. So, for example, we have the classic Bene Gesserit talent, the voice. So you've been trained to modulate your voice to influence the subconscious minds of others. With this skill, you can subtly manipulate others, alter motivations and moods, or even compel action from the unwilling. So, rules wise, basically, when you use the voice, you may add 1, 2, or 3 points to threat, which is a lovely pool of potential extra dice that you can give the GM, um, to score the same number of automatic successes on any test made to influence your chosen target. So that's basically it. There's no need to go into too many specifics for it. It works the same in the book.
Mhm.
So here,
Yeah.
GM, have 3 threat. Make the guy jump off the ornithopter so I can take over the controls. So yeah,
Wait, threat means because like there is a threat mechanic in Star Wars, the FFG Star Wars threat. Uh,
yes.
but what is
Um,
threat here?
yeah, I think the lineage for this one is the 2D20 system. I think it's also made by the J Little. Sorry, the designer of Genesis, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but there is a relationship to that. So yes, there is a threat mechanic. There's also a momentum mechanic in Dune. So if you roll higher, more success than you need to pass the test, the extra successes can get banked as momentum, which you can spend for various effects. If you want extra dice, you really need to succeed, but you have nothing to pull on, say no momentum, you can tell the GM, I'm buying dice in exchange for threat. And your GM cashes in and gets extra dice that he can roll later on to vex you.
Okay. And this is the threat dice is representing the 2d20, so they kind of give you like a pool of 2d20s to roll. Or
Yes.
is
So, for
uh,
example, you start with 2d20 as your basic roll, but you can go up as high as 5d20. So, okay, GM, I want to buy 3 more dice. So here's 3 threat. Give me 3 more dice. But I think in Dune the scaling is a little different. In Conan, I think it's 1:1. So in Dune it's a little more harsh. So it's more of like here's 6 threat. Give me 3 more dice.
oh my god, that's double. That's double. Holy shit.
I think it's the first is 1, the second is 6 dice. 6 threat in total.
Oh, okay.
But
All
it's
right.
really useful because you can spend momentum to do stuff like uh I'm spending momentum into introduce an asset into a scene. And this asset can literally be a one-time use um, minor NPC because I belong to a major house. So, I spend 2 momentum, and while I'm here in the party, I actually have one of the servants there is actually disguised, is one of my disguised assassins that I am,
Okay.
stuff like that.
That's awesome. So it's like kind of like a way to manipulate the favor to yourself at like high risk.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. So CC has a nice question regarding characters, player characters. How long are player characters supposed to last? I remember the books being quite ruthless in killing off the characters, yes, and also span generations, yes, can confirm. But
Yes.
does it aim
This,
for a D&D long heroic quest, or is it closer to Sprawl or even COC, where the impact of story is still high, but characters are expected to come out quite chewed out, if alive at all? Um, so, are they supposed to last? Short question. Um,
Okay. Yeah, I would say that the average lifespan of the Dune character is a lot longer than your average Call of Cthulhu investigator. Um, so you're, I guess it's a matter of really figuring out where the what the scale is. Because if you start with a minor house, then the life expectancy is a little higher. There's a lot less threat that the GM starts with. You deal with more local, more provincial type conflict of interest. Um, you have rival houses hate you because they wish they were you, or other motivations. But ultimately, it's really more of um, all this. You survival is entirely possible unless you're really stupid. Uh, so you have good chances of living out a heroic arc
Yeah.
in Dune at least.
Okay. So it's more of heroic and less of like at the end of the session your character just lost so much sanity or just so much assets that they have to crawl their way back.
Yeah,
Uh,
I had a player character who in Call of Cthulhu, there was one of my players just fell off a broken stair, nearly lost half his hit from the fall, and then got stabbed right away. So I think he died right there. Okay, so it's not that bad. So
is this the? I'm wondering if this is the same mod I got to play, the Lightless Beacon, because I had a character as well who slipped on a stairwell and was supposed to die.
oh, this one was in the haunting.
Okay, yeah. Because there's
There's
like,
in the haunting.
yeah,
So this broken stair and really bad luck.
yeah. Because like, the Lightless Beacon, I think it's also a starter adventure. Stairs. Like when you mentioned stairs in Call of Duty, I was just like, oh, I remember. Uh,
You get flashbacks.
so now flashbacks, and it's so funny because like the face claim is Tommy Shelby from Peaky Blinders. Just imagine him slipping off the stairs and almost dying. So she's like, why? But yeah, I think it's a good question. The like at the end of the day, it's like the player decisions whether they live longer or not. Because like it's always their decisions that either help the character keep going or they just die because they did something.
Yeah. But to
um
be perfectly fair though, if you do have a player who really leans into their drives and motivations, and the GM is like very keen on certain things, it's actually possible to give situations where you can have a player character have their heroic moment as they die, because it's something that they would do literally because of their motivations, their drives.
yes.
So, if you do go out, you'll go out as like major spotlight moment on you. And it's certainly something that's well supported by your own motives.
Awesome, awesome. So, yeah, I think the last question for the night, as we end this lovely talk, like it's really been a good chat. Would you recommend? Oh, wait, instead of call. Wait, hold on.
Okay, so yeah. Right. So if people are wondering, I actually do have a review for Dune. I'll probably give the link out to Denmum later on. But it is in my blog. Um, and so far, yeah.
Yeah, going out in style, Zen, yes. And if you guys
Yes.
can
Going out.
check out Jay's vlogs. He actually covers a lot of TTRPGs there. It's one of the that's why he's kind of like my go-to when it comes to the drug of choice, which is TTRPGs. Like, hey, if the system's really good or not. I like, all my current obsessions to TTRPG. I blame him. So check out his blog. It's the Philippine Gamer, Philippine
Yeah,
WordPress.com.
Life and Times of a Filipino Gamer. Yeah, philgamer.wordpress.com.
Okay, philgamer.wordpress.com. Like you know, he's one of those OGs because he opened it like when WordPress was still using WordPress as
Yes.
their line. Like, oh yes, the earlier years of WordPress. So,
Yes. Back when people still read blog. None of this
yes,
microblogging stuff.
yeah.
Anyway,
So, would you recommend Dune RPG for people to play? That's like the final takeaway question. Uh, would you let's say, hey, how would you recommend, or like, why do you think people should play Dune RPG?
I think um for the Dune RPG, you get the most bang out of your buck if you really like the books, because the RPG does open up a space for you to run the kind of um I guess cerebral and motivation heavy kind games. Because let's face it, Dune spends a lot of time living in the heads of their characters. And that's exactly what you get with the Dune RPG, because the Dune RPG characters are all driven by their own, you know, interpretations of their drives. So it's great in terms of examining, like in terms of like, if you were to try and see through the fortunes of a noble house as a team, like what would be the sacrifices and actions that your team would take to get their objectives. And it's great for space opera with a lot of drama, but has enough rules to sustain itself across, conflicts involving combat and all these other things.
Yeah.
So, but in terms of new players, it's a simple enough system. um Although again, caveat, it's easier to learn by playing it than reading it. um and honestly, if you're familiar with the books, and hopefully, if you watch the movie, uh the concepts will click a lot faster.
Yes. If you guys, I will definitely say that Dune the movie is something I'm looking forward to. Ever since I read the books, like about 10 years ago, I feel like there's a lot of love put into, like the director of the movie. Like he really read the books. He really like tried to capture the world. So if you guys can somehow watch it, not, I mean, not, I'm not telling you guys to go out, but if you guys can check out the movie, or if you guys want to experience the Dune world, you can also try it out with Dune RPG, Adventures in the Imperium. I believe there is a quick start guide and the
Yeah,
Worm
the quick start
Sign.
has a free adventure inside it. Yeah, so
Yeah, check out that free
um
adventure if you guys want to try it out.
pre-generated characters, and then yeah.
So it's all the fun goodness of the system. You can definitely try it out. It's
if
free, the
Yeah.
adventure. So,
And if
one
you
more.
end up liking it, you might want to buy the soundtracks by Hans Zimmer, because
Yes.
he did three albums, and only one of which is in the movie. The rest is inspired by. That's how much he loved it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a lot
The
of
new
tracks.
Dune movie is what I'm looking forward to. Old Dune has its own, like, it's bad, it's good kind of feels, but I'm still salty about them not putting in Pink Floyd. so anyways, thank you guys for tuning in to the last episode of this is like the season ender of TTRPG Talk. I look forward to
Guess I'm the
season two.
last boss.
Yeah, you're the last boss battle for this one. Check out the Dune RPG. We posted some links. Check out philgamer.wordpress.com and tune in to next month. I will be running a fun visual novel esque campaign of Eberron in its last year in the last war. So I really want to focus on like the war aspect. I got four cool people, and we'll actually have a meet the players on Friday. Oh my gosh, there's a. Why are you calling?
But yeah, hopefully this inspired you guys to go check it out. Please at least try the quick start. Yeah, it is free. You got pre-generated characters, a simplified version of the rules. as well as an entirely full adventure. So it should be fun.
Okay, really sorry guys. There's like calls happening, but thank you for tuning in to the last TTRPG Talk episode for season one. Thank you, Jay, for hopping
No
in.
problem. Always
Uh,
happy.
Always fun to talk TTRPGs with you and check out Dune. And again, if you guys enjoyed some of the talks, we have it on a collection. There are VODs of all the conversations we've had for season one. They're uploaded here on the channel. You can definitely check it out. And again, thank you for listening in. And uh, live with no fear, as they would say in Dune. Like so thank you again, and definitely we'll host someone. But for now, I'll see you guys in the next stream, and I'll see you, Jay, in the next
All right.
Awakening game. But yes, bye guys.
Yep. Bye, everyone. Stay safe.
Bye.